In the comment area, an Indian netizen criticized me for being brainwashed by the CCP and supporting dictatorship. My reply to him is that if his brain is still working properly, he should know that I have said more than once in the video and comments that I am not a fan of the CCP. And I have never denied that I believe in universal values, freedom, and democracy. But I cannot deny the great achievements made by the CCP and the Chinese government in recent decades. I cannot deny that the current Chinese government is not purely fighting against freedom and democracy, because that will not gain widespread support from the Chinese people. What the current Chinese government is resisting is the Americans' compression of China's entire national living space. As a Chinese, I have no reason to stand on the side of the United States in such a confrontation. I neither have a U.S. green card, nor will I gain any benefits from China losing this battle for national destiny. What I can get is definitely the same humiliation that the Russians suffered after the collapse of the Soviet Union, with their wealth looted by Western countries and being ridiculed on their TV shows. In any case, my yellow skin and black eyes cannot be changed, and I will never become an Anglo-Saxon. However, when someone leaves a message satirizing India and the United States democracy and elections, I will correct them. Liberal democracy has brought prosperity to human society today, and it has never been wrong. If it were not for great President Franklin Roosevelt leading the free world to defeat the fascist evil axis, human civilization might have been destroyed in war or sunk under the rule of fascist tyranny and once again entered the long dark period of the Middle Ages. All the problems encountered by democratic countries today are caused by greedy politicians and their stupid fans. Any system has its own advantages and disadvantages, and it is impossible to be strong all the time. But the value of liberal democracy lies in its ability to self-repair. I believe that when clown politicians such as Trump and Modi are gradually recognized for their true nature and voters in democratic countries pay enough, democracy can be reborn from the ashes and become stronger. In fact, China's highly centralized national system has many problems. For example, its self-correction ability is far inferior to that of democratic countries. Even if a policy is a major mistake, it cannot be corrected in the short term. The whole society will pay a price far greater than that of democratic countries for wrong decisions. But strangely, it seems that after the 1980s, the Chinese government has hardly made any mistakes on major issues. This surprised those Western politicians who were waiting for China to collapse and a color revolution. For example, Rubio, the incoming U.S. Secretary of State, complained, "The United States originally planned to accept China into the World Trade System, let China's economy develop, and then China would change color and be assimilated by the West." They did not expect the situation today. Not only was China not assimilated by the West, but it began to break the international order dominated by the West. So he was very angry. He constantly incited people's hatred of China on various occasions and escalated the atmosphere of confrontation between China and the United States. However, what he didn't know was that the crazier they were, the more beneficial it was to China. Because China's centralized system is more efficient when the country is facing a crisis. For example, the Soviet Union showed amazing industrial production capacity during the war. When the Soviet Union attacked Berlin at the end of World War II, its firepower density completely exceeded the Germans' imagination. In peacetime, the industrial production capacity of the Soviet Union and the Eastern European group was completely crushed by Western countries. The Cold War ended with a complete victory for the West. After entering the 21st century, the United States and Western politicians have always been constantly attacking China's various weaknesses, providing theoretical references for the Chinese government to formulate policies. Media such as BBC and CNN often go to China's backward areas to shoot videos, add death filters, and portray China as hell on earth. As a result, the Chinese government has stepped up its poverty alleviation efforts and new rural construction, greatly improving the rural environment. They began to report on the dirty and messy appearance of Chinese cities, mocking the Chinese for being unhygienic. The Chinese government began to improve urban infrastructure, clean up the environment, and beautify the city. Then Western media widely reported on China's serious environmental pollution, mocking the Chinese for living in smog. This led to the Chinese government's determination to control pollution and develop new energy industries, which led to the rapid development of various industries such as solar energy, wind energy, and electric vehicles. Western media also often satirized China's poor quality of manufacturing, which can only copy and imitate and make low-end products, equating Chinese manufacturing with inferior products. Western politicians attribute China's backwardness to the incompetence of the Communist Party of China in governing, and boast about the high-tech and high-value-added industries mastered by democratic countries. This made the Chinese government determined to upgrade the industrial chain and move from low-end manufacturing to the upstream of the industrial chain. Before Trump launched a trade war against China, China's economy had already faced huge downward pressure, with serious wealth disparity and various social contradictions. The Chinese government was also immersed in various self-boasting vanity and formulated many policies that did not conform to China's actual situation. If Trump did not launch a trade war and a technology war, China would likely go further and further on the wrong path and pay a huge price at any time. However, Trump's trade sanctions and technology war against China made China realize the structural problems of China's economy, which is overdependent on foreign trade, especially overdependence on the United States. China's technology industry has many weaknesses, such as the chip manufacturing industry being strangled by the West. Under the sanctions and attacks of the United States, the Chinese government seriously reflected on the problems, formulated strategies, and became rational again. Various contradictions in China temporarily subsided under major national risks, and unity in defeating the United States became the main axis. Chinese society once again effectively condensed under the huge pressure of the United States, and development was back on track. The United States and the West want to decouple from China, so China has to strengthen cooperation with the vast southern countries through strategies such as the Belt and Road Initiative and cultivate new markets. For example, ASEAN has surpassed the United States and the European Union to become China's largest trading partner. China's trade with Russia, Central Asian countries, Latin American countries such as Chile and Brazil, Middle Eastern countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and African countries is growing rapidly. The trade surplus in 2024 is close to $1 trillion, a record high. The fact that Western countries such as the United States do not use Huawei's products has become the best advertisement for Huawei in non-Western countries. The accelerated decoupling between the United States and China has promoted the optimization of China's trade structure and accelerated the integration of the industrial chain between the vast southern countries and China. China does not have an influential opposition party and is a one-party state. Therefore, the Chinese government operates very efficiently but lacks effective supervision. However, politicians in the United States and Western countries have fully played this role. They try every means to find China's shortcomings, constantly accuse China, and force the Chinese government to continuously improve and perfect its weaknesses, thereby making rapid progress. But at the same time, there are problems in their own society. The lawmakers are staring at China, but they ignore the backward infrastructure, social confrontation, increasingly serious ethnic divisions, insufficient scientific and technological innovation, and declining industrial production capacity in their own countries. They should have focused on the development and construction of their own country, but they used the salaries paid by American taxpayers to serve as competent opposition to the Chinese, monitoring the performance of the Chinese government around the clock, and eventually made China an invincible modern industrial power. But when China solved the problem of large-scale poverty, the rural and urban environment was greatly improved, the people's living standards were greatly improved, and the industrial capacity ranked first in the world. The United States and the West were not happy again. saying that China had overcapacity and threatened their national security. We don't know what China should do to satisfy them. They laughed at China for its poverty and backwardness and even bombed its embassy. After it developed, it was subject to trade sanctions and technological blockades. However, at the end of the video, I would like to reiterate, freedom and democracy have never been a sin. It is these politicians who take taxpayers' money and do not do serious things who mess up the free and democratic world. They are either busy with ideological struggles, religious fanaticism, or corruption. But as long as they blame China for all the failures of their own countries and continue to show a tough attitude towards China, they can always get votes. I am not a supporter of a dictatorship, but as I have mentioned many times in my videos, stupidity is the root of most human tragedies, and arrogance is the catalyst. Now you are addicted to Trump and Modi's inflammatory speeches and vote for them. You should wake up earlier, study the problems in your own country seriously, and build your own country well. Don't think about defeating China all day long. 50% of the tragedies in your life are caused by the politicians in your country, and the other 50% are caused by yourself. At any time and in any environment, working hard to make yourself better is the only effective way to achieve happiness. There is no point in expecting others to live worse.